we are on site in Southern California, La Cañada, California, and we find extensive trenching has been carried out on this landscape for the construction of ornamental and retaining walls. The trenching process has damaged a lot of roots. Many of the roots are in that first 18, 24, 30 inches of the soil profile. Not like most people believe that all the roots are deeply established in the soil. A lot of roots are close to the surface. A significant trench in the landscape is almost always going to find important roots. This has been a great oversight on this site, that this very aggressive trench has caused a tremendous amount of root damage. Mind you, this root damage is not the work of ourselves. This is a construction crew that is laid in this trench for the construction of ornamental and retaining walls. And so this damage is fairly extensive, and the root cuts are large. Many times trenches dug by backhoe or mattocks or other trenching tools, ditch witch, really splinter and shred the roots, making very, very difficult wounds for the tree to cope with. How is the tree possibly going to heal these splintered and shattered roots? Our best alternative is to perhaps recut the splintered and shattered roots to clean, square to the stem excisions that we can then treat. We can use our orange rind oil beeswax to treat the end grain of those wounds, to try to slow down the advance of decay organisms, mold, fungus, bacteria, mushrooms, and so forth, are able to get access to the root crown and major anchorage and feeder roots. So first, do no harm. Try to find a way to avoid these serious root injuries to long-established landscape trees. We're pretty close to the main stem, pretty close to the trunk and root crown, so these injuries are very serious. We're going to keep a weather eye on these trees and see how they respond to these injuries. It might be years before we get the true extent of how serious these injuries are, but certainly these could be considered injuries that would fall into the category of death cuts. These injuries could result in the decline and final demise of these well-developed landscape trees. Also, we have to consider the issue of anchorage. When we cut major anchorage roots to the root crown of an important mature landscape tree, we are really setting the stage. We're starting the clock for decline. Trees' roots are mainly in tension. So if we cut roots on the north side of a tree, failure potential is to the south. We take it very seriously. When roots are cut, there better be very good reasons for making those root cuts, because we really are putting the long-term health and vitality of the tree into question, not only its health, but also its anchorage and stability. I would say that an alternative would have been to give consideration to maybe a wooden fence, or a post and beam, or a rail fence, or a fence that does not require a continuous footing. Maybe the fence could have been mounted on individual piers every 6 or 8 feet, instead of a continuous trench, which is bound to cut important anchorage and feeder roots. Root damage is still considered the #1 cause of urban tree death. 75% of urban trees that die and decline is the result of root damage. If we can prevent root damage, it's the easiest way to give our trees their longest lifespan.